Now then, you may have noticed during the week we did a little video in which we read aloud the Eye of Argon.
That was fun.
But since there isn't much of it left, I figured we'd just finish it off here and now. So we'll just read out half a page each time we die. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
There you go. Starts at chapter 7.
With wobbling knees and swimming head, the priest that had lapsed into an epileptic seizure rose unsteadily to his feet. While enacting his choking fit in writhing agony, the shaman was overlooked by Grigner.
Yippee, that seems like a difficult thing to overlook.
Yeah.
In the middle of an otherwise empty room.
The barbarian had mistaken the seizure for the death throes of the acolyte, allowing the priest to avoid his stinging blade. The sight that met the priest's inflamed eyes nearly served to sprawl him upon the floor once more. The sacrificial sat in grim, blood-splattered silence all around him, broken only by the occasional yelps and howls of his maimed and butchered fellows. Above his head rose the hideous idol, its empty socket holding the shaman's furbished, infuriated gaze.
Infuriated, eh?
Yep. His eyes turned to a stony glaze with the realization of the pillage and blasphemy. Due to his high susceptibility following the seizure, the priest was transformed into a raving maniac bent solely on seeking vengeance.
So remember that, guys. After an epileptic seizure, girls are really easy.
Now
Something to
that
bear
you
in
have,
mind.
yeah, you can turn anyone who's had an epileptic fit basically into like Jason Bourne. You can just. It's a shame the fire doesn't burn him.
I was going to say flowers for Algernon, but okay.
Well, because I think he's about to become kind of like a, cleric plus and fight Grigner.
Right, where were we?
I don't know.
A sweeping scimitar swung towards Grigner's head in a shadowed blur of motion. With axe, capital A, raised over his head, Grigner prepared to parry the blow, while gaping wide-eyed in open-mouthed perplexity. Yeah, Jim knows what gaping means. Suddenly, a sharp snap resounded behind the frothing shaman. I don't think he wasn't frothing from his mouth. He just
just generally.
He just come out of the shower and he still had his shampoo in his
Just
hair.
fizzy. He's just naturally fizzy.
The scimitar, halfway through its fatal sweep, dropped from a quivering, nerveless hand. Well, it wasn't a fatal sweep then.
Yeah.
Clattering harmlessly to the stonage. Cutting his screech short with a bubbling, red-mouthed gurgle, the lacerated acolyte staggered under the pressure of the released springboard. Oh, it was the trap. After
He
a
is stuck on that trap, like.
Yeah, this is still the most pathetic combat Grigner has been in this whole story.
Yeah, a bunch of like fizzy.
Yeah, a bunch of crap outs. One of them had an epileptic fit. The rest died in one hit.
Oh fuck yeah!
And the one that had the epileptic fit just came in and got killed by the trap. After a moment of hopeless struggling, the shaman buckled, sprawling face down in a widening pool of blood and entrails. Oh, sorry, that's 2 L's in blood, so perhaps it's Welsh. Plod.
Blood.
Plod. His regal purple robe blending enhancingly with the swirling streams of crimson. I like how he paints a picture with words.
I feel like I'm there. Enhancingly.
Mrifk! I thought I had killed the last of those dogs, muttered Grigner in a half-apathetic state. Fucking intense action right here.
Get it! Fucking get it!
Nay, Grigner, you doubtless grew careless while giving vent to your lusts. But let us not tarry any long.
When was that?
Lest we overtax the fates. The paths leading to freedom will soon be barred. The wretch's cries most certainly have attracted unwanted attention, the wench mused. By what direction shall we pursue our flight?
One direction.
Down to Terminal 5, I think. Up that stair and down the corridor a short distance is the concealed entrance to a tunnel seldom used by others than the prince, and known to few others save the palace's royalty. Sorry, I should be doing my whore voice, shouldn't I?
Yes, whore voice.
It is used mainly by the prince when he wishes to take leave of the palace in secret. It is not always in the prince's best interests to leave his chateau in public view. Even while under heavy guard, he is often assaulted by hurtling stones and rotting fruits. The commoners have little love for him. Lectured the Nere lady! Exclamation mark.
The what?
N-E-R-E, lady. Or
Yeah, like
word.
I know like sort of ne'er-do-well, but I don't know. Oh god, yeah. Because it's not even spelled like ne'er as in ne'er-do-well either.
No, it's not a word.
Yeah.
It's a load of bullshit is what it is.
Nair lady.
Come on, Mr. Hyder Knight.
Alright, who's speaking here? It is amazing that they would ever have a pig like him become their ruler. I should imagine that his people would rise up and crucify him like the dog he is. Oh no, I think that was Grigner. Okay. It is amazing that they would ever have a pig like him become their ruler. I should imagine that his people would rise up and crucify him like the dog that he is. Alas, Grigner, it is not as simple as that. His soldiers are well paid by him. So long as he keeps their wages up, they will carry out his damned wish. The crude implements of the common folk would never stand up under an onslaught of forged blades and protective armor. They would be going to their own slaughter, stated Carina to a confused but angered Grigner as they topped the stairway.
I think that just sums up Grigner's personality this whole time.
Yeah, like, I don't understand any of this, and most of it upsets me. Yet how can they bear to live under such oppression? I would sooner die beneath the sword than live under such a dog's command, added Grigner as the pair stalked down the hall in the direction opposite that in which Grigner had come.
Heavy attacks, that does the business.
Yeah. There's got to be a better way to phrase that. But all men are not of the same mold that you are born of. They choose to live as long as they are so as to save their filthy necks from the chopping block.
Sociology with Carina.
Returned Carina in a disgusted tone, as she cast an appeased glance toward the stalwart figure at her side, whose left arm was wound dexterously about her slim waist, his slowly waning torch casting their images in intermingling wisps as it dangled from his left hand.
Okay. Presently, Carina came upon the panel, concealed amongst the other granite slabs and discernible only by the burned-out cresset above it. As I pushed the cresset aside, pushed the panel inwards. Carina motioned to the panel she was referring to, and twisted the cresset in a counterclockwise motion. Grigner braced his right shoulder against the walling, concentrating the force of his bulk against it. The slab gradually swung inward with a slight grating sound. Carina stooped beneath Grigner's corded arms and crawled upon all fours into the passage beyond. Grigner followed after easing the slab back into place. Winding before the pair was a dark, musty tunnel, exhibiting tangled spider webs from its ceiling to wall, and an oozing, sickly slime running lazily upon its floor. Oozing, I would have said.
Shit.
Hanging from the chipped wall upon Grigner's, capital R, right side, was a half-moulded corpse, its grey flacking arms, held in place by rusted iron manacles. Carina flinched back into Grigner's arms.
Get wrecked.
I thought they were on all fours.
Yeah, that's one of the fucking biggest puzzles for me in this whole book, is like working out what's going on at any given point. Like, they kind of teleport around.
Flinched back into Grigner's arms at sight of the leering Set in an ugly, distorted grimace, 2 M's, staring horribly at her from hollow, gaping sockets.
Huh?
This alcove must also be used by Agathim as a torture chamber. I wonder how many of his enemies have disappeared into these haunts, never to be heard from again, pondered the hulking brute. Let us flee before we are also caught within Agathim's ghastly clutches. The exit from this tunnel cannot be very far from here. Lost my place for a second there. Said Carina with a slight sob to her voice as she sagged in Grigner's encompassing embrace. Aye, it will be best to be finished with this corridor as soon as it is possible. My thoughts exactly, Jim.
Yeah, alright, so, okay, I can't get across there. Alright.
But why do you flinch from the sight of death so? Mrift! I thought it was Mrifk. You have seen much death this day without exhibiting such emotions, exclaimed Grigner, as he led her trembling form along the dingy confines. The man hanging from the wall was Doyanta. He had committed the folly of showing affections for me in front of Agathim. Blimey, the world revolves around this bitch. He never meant any harm by his actions. Friend zone, I'm guessing. At this, Carina broke into a slow, steady whimpering, chocking her voice with gasping sobs. Yeah, read from chocking her voice.
Oh god, it's just chocking her voice with gasping sobs. There was never anything between us. Yet Agatham did this to him, the beast!
That's chocking, is it?
Yeah, apparently.
I wasn't sure.
May the demons of hell's deepest haunts claw away at his wretched flesh for this merciless
Bye,
act.
guys.
She prayed.
Sorry to wake you.
I detect that you felt more for this fellow than you wish to let on. But enough of this.
Yeah, you already said.
Oh, Jesus. We can talk of such matters after we are once more free to do so. With this, Grigna lifted the grieved female to her feet and strode onward down the corridor, supporting the bulk of her weight with his surging left arm.
Surging?
Yeah, that's no
What's he
business.
doing? Playing tennis?
Presently, a dim light was perceptibly filtering into the tunnel, casting a dim reddish hue upon the moldy
You
wall.
already used dim.
Moldy is spelt with the passage's grim confines. Carina had ceased her whimpering, finally. And,
Yeah, bitches, am I right?
They're just always with the whimpering and the choking, and, just whimpering and choking. That's my entire experience of women, is whimpering and choking. I don't have a problem. What are you talking
I
about?
think that says more about you than them.
Windows into people. And she had partially regained her composure. The tunnel's end must be nearing. Rays of sunlight are beginning to seep into... ellipsis. Grigna clammed his chlamyde. Okay.
Chlamydia.
Chlamyde his right hand over Carina's mouth, and with a slight struggle pulled her over to the shadows at the right hand of the wall path, while at the same time thrusting his torch beneath an overhanging stone to smother its flickering rays. Be silent! I can hear footsteps approaching through the tunnel, growled Grigna in a hushed tone. Grigna nothing but screams to me. Alright, so that's my half page, so it's at the top.
Where did you end off?
Top of the... top. So
Right at the top.
that you hear are the horses.
All that you hear are the horses corralled at the far end of the tunnel. That is a further sign that we are nearing our goal, she stated! Exclamation mark. All that you hear is less than I hear. I heard footsteps coming towards us. They're having their first fight. Isn't that cute?
This entire thing's been a fight. I'm gonna explore up here.
Silence yourself that we may find out whom we are being brought into contact with.
Hey, the rain works everywhere here.
I doubt that any would have thought as yet of searching this passage for us. The advantage of surprise will be upon our side, Grigna warned. Carina cast her eyes downward like a good girl, and ceased any further pursuit towards conversation.
No talking. Oh god, no, keep
Oh
going.
god. Oh god.
Don't hold out on me, Croshaw.
Jim, cards on my sleeve, thighs. Carina cast her eyes downward and ceased any further pursuit towards conversation, an irritating habit in which she had gained an amazing proficiency. Two figures came into the pair's view from around a turn in the tunnel. They were clothed in rich, luxuriant silks, and rambled on in conversation, while ignorant of their crouching foes waiting in an ambush ahead. That barbarian dog is cringing beneath the weight of the lash at this moment, sire. He shall cause no more disturbance. Aye, and so it is with any who dare to cross the path of Sargon's chosen one, said the second man. But the peasants are showing signs of growing unrest. They complain that they cannot feed their families, while burdened with your taxes. I shall teach those sluts the meaning of humility.
What? Did he actually use the word sluts there?
Yep. Jim Thighs, I think, has some issues.
That's not even the right context for that.
Order an immediate increase upon their taxes. They dare to question my sovereign authority? Ha ha! They shall soon learn what true oppression can be. I will... ... A shadowed bulk leapt from behind a jutting promontory.
It's so good. It's so good.
My old priest had a jutting promontory, as it brought down a double-edged axe with the sped of a striking thought. One of the nobles sagged lifeless to the ground, skull split to the teeth. Ugh. You know, that's actually good writing on Jim Theis's part.
Yeah.
That was a good, a very evocative bit of language there. We found 5 good words out of this shit.
I just realized, like, how is this gonna end? I'm fucking thrilled. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat now.
Yeah, we're like a page away. Grignr gasped as he observed the bisected face set in its leering death agonies.
Well, that ruined it.
It was Agafund. The dead man's comrade, having recovered from his shock, drew a jewel-encrusted dagger from beneath the folds of his robe and lunged towards the barbarian's back. Grignr spun at the sound from behind.
Oh, there's a fucking ghost there.
And
That's what
smashed
gotcha.
down his crimsoned axe once more. Go from crimsoned axe there.
Crimson axe once more. His antagonist lunged, howling to a stream of stagnant green water, grasping a spouting stump that had once been a wrist. Grignr raised his axe over his head and prepared to finish the incomplete job, but was deterred halfway through his lunge by a frenzied screech from behind. Carina leapt to the head of the writhing figure, plunging a smouldering torch into the agonized face.
I could have gone the back way, actually.
Jesus. Huh. Jesus fuck, they're going to town on this cunt.
Ah! God damn it.
The howls increased in their horrid intensity, stifled by the sizzling of roasting flesh, then died down until the man was reduced to a blubbering mass of squirming, insensate flesh. Grignr advanced to Carina's side, wincing slightly from the putrid aroma of charred flesh that rose in a puff of thick white smog throughout the chamber. Carina reeled slightly, staring dazedly downward at her gruesome handiwork. I had to do it. It was Agathim. I had to. She exclaimed. All right. Sargon should be more careful of his right-hand men, added Grignr, a smug grin upon his lips. But to hell with Sargon now. The stench is becoming bothersome to me. With that, Grignr grasped Carina around the waist, always.
And used his hook shot.
Yeah, leading her around the bend in the cave and into the open.
This
ball.
female character lacks personal agency, for my liking.
Like actual physical personal agency. A ball of feral red was rising through the mists of the eastern horizon, dissipating the slinking shadows of the night. A coral stood before the pair, enclosing 2 grazing mares. Grignr reached into a weighted down leather pouch dangling at his side and drew forth the scintillant red emerald that he had obtained from the bloated idol. Raising it toward the sun, he said, "We shall do well with this bauble, eh?"
Is he Canadian now?
Apparently.
We shall do well with this bauble, eh?
Carina gaped at the gem, gasping in a terrified manner. The Eye of Argon! Oh, Kalla!
Oh, what?
Kalla, K-A-L-L-A. Kalla? I'm going Kalla.
What?
Oh. At this, the gem gave off a blinding glow, then dribbled through Grignr's fingers in a slimy red ooze. Grignr stepped back, pushing Carina behind him. The droplets of slime slowly converged into a pulsating, jelly-like mass. A single opening transfixed the blob.
Oh god, it's her period.
Formant into a leech-like maw. Then the hideous transgressor of nature flowed toward Grignr, a tail of greenish slime lingering behind it. The single gap puckered repeatedly, emitting a ghastly sucking sound.
So it's an asshole now.
This is, like, actually just turning into, his understanding of sex.
Hey.
This is intercourse. What the?
Here's the chum.
Oh. Okay. Grignr spread his legs into a battle stance, stealing his quivering thews for a battle royale with a thing he knew not how to fight.
Yeah, this whole scene is just an analogy for Jim Theis's understanding of sexual relations, isn't it?
Yeah, Carina,
there have been clues throughout this entire story about how he thinks about women.
I mean, to be fair, 16 in the 70s, you didn't have, like, the internet or even really porno mags to explain the vagina in much detail.
Well, he's not trying to describe sex at this point. He's describing something that inadvertently seems to have taken on all the qualities.
But I think in that is the sort of... Excellent. Carina wound her arms around her protector's neck, mumbling, Kill it! Kill! While her entire body trembled. Fuck, this is weird. The thing was almost upon Grigner when he buried his axe into the grisly maw.
Yeah, he's gonna be a much better fighter with a woman hanging off his neck.
Yeah, it's like, honey, I have to fight the blob creature now. Could you not be on my neck?
Tell you what, why don't you go make me and the blob creature a sandwich somewhere?
Grigner drew his axe back with a film of yellow-green slime clinging to the blade.
No, we didn't.
The thing was seemingly unaffected. Then it started to sluice up his leg. The hairs upon his nape stood on end from the slimy feel of the thing's booly bulk. The Nauta sucking sound became louder, and Grigner felt the blood being drawn from his body. With each hiss of hideous pucker, the thing increased in size. Huh, that's interesting. Grigner shook his foot about madly in an attempt to dislodge the blob, but it clung like a leech, still feeding upon his rapidly draining life fluid. He grasped with his hands,
There's that life fluid again. I remember the life fluid from the start. We've come full circle now.
Well, you know, that's a writing technique. He grasped with his hands, trying to rip it off, but only found his hands entangled in a sickly glue-like substance. The slimy thing continued its puckering, now having grown the size of Grigner's leg from its vampiric feast. Grigner began to reel and stagger under the blob, his chalk-white face and faltering muscles attesting to the gigantic loss of blood. Well, now it's blood.
Oh shit, it's the Looking Glass Knight.
Alright, I'll stop there. You can have the last paragraph, or do you want me to finish it?
No, I'm good.
Alright. Carina slipped from Grigner in a death-like faint, a morrow-chilling scream upon her red, rubish lips. In final desperation, Grigner grasped the smouldering torch upon the ground and plunged it into the reeking maw of the travesty. A shudder passed through the thing. What was that?
That was a lightning attack.
Oh. Grigner felt the blackness closing upon his eyes, but held on with the last ebb of his rapidly waning vitality.
So it happened again.
He could feel its grip lessening as a hideous gurgling sound erupted from the writhing maw. The jelly-like mass began to bubble like a vat of boiling tar as quavers passed up and down its entire form.
Quavers?
Yeah.
I used to like those back in England.
Yeah, I was gonna... What were those?
They were a sort of maize snack. With a cheesy taste. Right, where were we?
Oh, the Lost Ending.
Ah, yes, the Lost Ending.
No, sorry, end of available copy. So transcriber's note.
Yeah, this is the transcriber's note. This is not Jim Mathias' writing. No mere transcription can give the true flavour of the original printing of the Eye of Argon. It was mimeographed with stencils cut on an elite manual typewriter.
Wow.
Many letters were so faint as to be barely readable, others were overstruck, and some that were to be removed never got painted out with correction fluid. Usually only one space separated sentences, while paragraphs were separated by a blank line and were indented 10 spaces. Many words were grotesquely hyphenated, and there were illustrations. I cannot do them justice in mere words, but they were a match for the text.
I need to see that.
These are the major losses of this version of the Eye of Argon. Otherwise, all effort has been made to retain the full and correct text, preserving even misspellings and dropped spaces. An excellent proofreader has checked it for errors both omitted and committed. What mismatches remain are mine. I shall endeavour to keep a copy of the original available for viewing, so it may be appreciated in all its fullness. But as a labour of love for those whose third-generation copies have now succumbed to the bitter vicissitudes of time and entropy, worn away by the ravages of Countell's rereadings before enthralling audiences, I think having a little funny at the story's expense, yet to have found that the heady flavour of its stylistic paragraphs has seeped into their soul and still grips it with a fervid grasp, I dedicate this machine-readable version of the inimitable The Eye of Argon. So, the Lost Ending.
Fuck!
Oh, just in time for you.
I'm like, click, okay, target the guy behind me. No. Okay, rotate, target the guy. No.
Nope.
The Lost Ending.
Ha 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 ha, says the game.
With a sloshing plop, the thing fell to the ground, evaporating in a thick scarlet cloud until it reattained its original size. It remained thus for a moment, and the puckered maw took the shape of a protruding red eyeball.
I'll give you a puckered maw.
The pupil of which seemed to unravel before it in the tale of creation. How a shapeless mass slithered from the quagmires of the stigmatic pool of time only to degenerate into a leprosy of avaricious lust.
I'll give you a leprosy of avaricious lust.
What? In that fleeting moment, the grim mystery of life was revealed before Grigner's ensnared gaze.
What is this now?
I know!
Turn into 2001 A Space Odyssey.
What is this? The eyeball's glare turned into a sudden plea of mercy. a plea for the whole of humanity. Then the blob began to quiver with violent convulsions. The eyeball shattered into 1,000 tiny fragments and evaporated.
Grignr became the Star Child.
Yeah. In a curdling wisp of scarlet mist, the very ground below the thing began to vibrate.
Oh, that was like a little rhyme.
And swallowed it up with a belch.
Swallowed it up with a belch?
Blah.
How do you swallow and belch at the same time? Like that.
The thing was gone forever. All that remained was a dark red blotch upon the face of the earth,
So wait,
blotching things up.
Why'd it go away?
It just... Grignr stabbed it in the face with a torch, and then it turned out to be like Blob Jesus, and... But all that remained was a dark red blotch upon the face of the earth, blotching things up. Shaking his head, his shaggy mane to clear the jumbled fragments of his mind, Grignr tossed the limp female over his shoulder. Mounting one of the disgruntled mares and leading the other, the weary, scarred barbarian trooted slowly off into the horizon to become a tiny pinpoint in a filtered field of swirling blue mists.
I should have been a film director, Jim Thighs.
Leaving the nobles, soldiers, and peasants to replace the missing monarch.
Such a visual writing style.
Last words. Long live the king. 3 exclamation points.
Long live the king.
Yes.
Indeed.
I will modify my opinion of it slightly on account of the fact that I thought this was maybe typed on a typewriter.
Ow.
Not like fucking... I really need to see the sort of, the pictures and shit, and that would...
Well, I'm sure there's some scans online.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking that up in some of my spare time when I get home.
Good for you. Well, thus ends the Eye of Argon.
That was...
We should find something else stupid to read.